Hi there. I'm Sister Denise Glazik. I'm a Springfield Dominican for nearly 30 years now, and I love my life. I'm the youngest of 14 children, 7 boys and 7 girls. I've lived in community all my life.
Hi, I'm Vicki Schmidt. I'm a lay woman, and I've spent my life in nonprofit leadership. I was drawn to the Dominicans many years ago when I began to find out about their charism and their pillars and how invested they were in the common good of humanity.
Hi, I'm Sister Bernice Juip, have been so for over 60 years. Originally, I'm a farm girl from Warren, Michigan, which is over in the thumb of Michigan near Detroit. And I've been aware of Dominican Sisters ever since I can remember because I had cousins in the Racines and I had Adrians in my parish. And then I'm a Springfield Dominican, and basically it's my parents' fault. Unwittingly made me do it. They exposed me to these joy-filled sisters.
Hi, I'm Kara Mernaugh. I'm a Springfield native, maiden name Robinson. Primarily educated in the Springfield parochial school system and by several Dominican sisters from grade school through high school. So through my education, I was introduced to the Dominican community. And as I grew up, I started to explore that community further. And last August, I completed the formation process and was accepted as a Dominican associate.
Wow, I think I'm the only one. This is Sister Denise. I think I'm the only one who is a publicer. I was not exposed to the Dominicans until probably late junior high in summer catechism, or some of you may know it as PSR or religious ed. So interesting that I had such a limited exposure, but then when I grew up and moved away from home, they were in my parish. And so that's how I became familiar with them and saw that they were normal, joy-filled. They loved to play, pray, eat. I fell in love with them. So they drew me in right away.
I say the same thing, Denise. I forgot to say that I had Dominicans teach in our CCD program in Sherman, where I grew up. So I had an early introduction to them also.
Interestingly enough, I was dating at the time, had been dating for 6 years, the love of my life. My plan was to get married, have kids, and help at one of our family businesses. But I guess the Lord touched my heart in a special way. And these Dominicans were put literally in front of me. Once I befriended them, I just couldn't get enough. And as a good Catholic girl during Lent, I started going to Mass and I started getting involved in the parish. So I did what Sister Beverly Jean did. I helped with our CIA, Bible study, Eucharistic minister, prayer services, and so forth. And Sister Sarah at the time, God rest her, she just died October 18th. She was very instrumental in my life. I learned that it wasn't doing the things because there was more. Since I thought I was doing what they were doing, learning that it was the becoming who they were.
Denise, I can resonate with that, the concept of there's more. When I was in high school, that's when I was introduced to the Springfield Dominicans. And that's why I say it was my parents' fault, because they made me go to this high school where none of my friends were, none of my family. And it was, I was tremendously grieved when I first had to go to St. Augustine's School in Richmond, Michigan, staffed, not because it was staffed by the Springfield Dominicans, but just away from my friends. And however, I'm pretty outgoing. And so I made friends quickly. And in my senior year, there was a popular song at the time, and I resonated with the words, "Is this all there is to life?" When I observed the sisters, and I went to Sister Mary Claire, one of our sisters, Sister Mary Claire's reception here in Springfield, I really was very attracted to this type of life, their spirit, I saw them at times when things weren't the greatest, but in the midst of whatever, they always emerged as joy-filled people. And so there was more to life. And for me, it was joining the Springfield Dominicans.
I remember in grade school, Sister Mary Luke, she stands out for some reason. And I must have had her probably in 5th grade. And she was just a bright light and in that class. And she created in me a deep interest in who are these Dominican sisters, but I wouldn't really explore that until much later. Really, I got involved with Mother Teresa of Calcutta in my late teens, and I ended up going to India, and then coming home and staying involved with her community for probably 15 years, and it was really after that I reconnected with Dominican sisters, because what I found was, as much as I love being with Mother Teresa's sisters and working with them in so many different places, I wanted something here at home that I could hitch my wagon to. And you know how I think it was Barack Obama who said how important it is to hitch your wagon to something bigger than you are. And I didn't have that here in Springfield. And so that's when the Dominicans really became much more prominent in my life. And it started at Benincasa when the sisters were in Riverton. And even today, to know that I'm part of this community, it means the world to me. And I'm just grateful to be a part of it and to know so many of the sisters.
During my formation process as a Dominican associate, in one of the first classes, September 2019 meeting, so one of the first classes, St. Catherine and St. Dominic were the focus of that class. And St. Catherine's words of, "Be who God meant you to be, and you will set the world on fire," they spoke to me during that class, but yet it was also a reflection point for me, because I firmly believe that God called me as a grade school student to music ministry. And I was already in the parochial school system at that time. So I had met Sister Mary Lawrence. She was my principal at St. Agnes. But when God called me to music ministry, and when I say a grade school student, I mean 4th grade, that introduced me to Sister Frances Mary. She's just been such an integral part of my life since such an early age, that relationship in meeting her and studying with her really as a music minister, but then as a piano teacher and my first voice teacher, and then my confirmation sponsor and my sponsor through the Dominican Associate Program, really being like a second mother to me through my life. If I hadn't met her, or if I hadn't listened to that call from God at such an early age to be a music minister, who knows where I would be at this point. But I really attribute listening to that call to be a music minister as the start of building my relationship with the Springfield Dominicans. And so St. Catherine's words of, "Be who God meant you to be, and you will set the world on fire," those words mean a lot to me. They have a very special meaning in my life.
Sarah, what did that call feel like to you in fourth grade? Because mine didn't come until I was 20. So what did it feel like as a fourth grader? How did you know it was God or?
So I transferred to St. Agnes in third grade. So I did kindergarten, first and second in the public school system in Springfield. And then my parents decided they wanted to send me to parochial school. So I started at St. Agnes in third grade. And at some point in fourth grade, I can't remember the exact time of year, my mother would be able to tell you. Her memory is incredible. But at some point during the year, Mom and I were at Mass, and I turned to my mom during Mass and I said, I want to sing in that choir. Now, St. Agnes Church, one whole side of the church parallels the choir loft. And I recall that Mom and I always used to sit by the choir. So I don't know if it was more of like well, that's a really cool activity. But I also remember, oh, wow, my memory is like sparking tonight as I'm talking about this. I think it was during the Eucharist, like during the Holy Holy and that part of the Mass. And I turned to my mom and I said, I want to sing in that choir. And she responded to me. She goes, Kara, those are all adults. You're a child. I mean, those are literally all adults in that choir. And I just said, Mom, I want to sing with them. Perhaps that was 1 week of a few that I expressed that to her. After expressing it a few times, Mom knew a member of the choir from a recent koinonia. And so she talked to this lady who talked to Sister Frances Mary, and I had to audition for Sister. And that's really when we knew, oh, Kara can sing. She has a voice. There's something there. So Sister welcomed me, and that's where it all began, really. I mean, I've been in music ministry since then. So to answer your question, Sister Denise, what did that feel like? How did I know?
Kara, I'm wondering, I only know those promptings in retrospect. So I think when there is that nudge toward something that's going to continue to define who you are and what you love, we don't realize what those are until much later. And I don't know if that fits for you, but sometimes it took me a long time to realize that. Some things that connected the dots to how the trajectory of your life goes.
Right. When I was in fourth grade and that young, I didn't know to call it, to identify it as a call, right? But looking back on it and reflecting on it and putting puzzle pieces together, it's genuinely how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Kara and Vicki and Denise, I can identify with what you're saying in the sense of the realization of a call. It's a mystery, and we respond to a call, I think, for all kinds of reasons. Like what I was saying, is that all there is to life? It's like just looking for something better, something deeper, not really knowing what I was getting into. So I'll never forget that when I got here in Springfield, the first thing we were going to do is sign up for classes. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I just finished classes because I had just graduated from high school. I don't know what I thought I was going to be doing, but it's just something, all kinds of mixed reasons as to why we embark on a certain journey. I remember saying to the other high school students who were saying to me, why are you going? And I would just say, I got the call. And they'd go, Bernice got the call. Did you get the call? I mean, that's the only way that I could explain it. Somehow I got the call. And unless I consciously have an awareness that every day God is calling each of us, just to spread hope or joy, just respond in the ordinary way. So that's part of, I think, what vocation and responding in this time, in this place, it's sort of like the gospel passage where Jesus says in response, to the disciples wanting to know before they were the disciples, where do you abide? And Jesus says, come and see. So there's something attractive there. And then we have to go and see.
And this just really blows my mind, because as I was thinking I was being called, I didn't know what that meant. And I was ready to hang up. I wanted my plan, get married, have kids, be in our family business. But like you, Vicki, there was something I wanted to hook my wagon to, so to speak. And the strange thing is I didn't know, Kara, who Dominic and Catherine were. Never heard of them. Didn't know what Dominican life was about. Didn't know Dominic. And then I went to my brother and I said, I think I'm going crazy, because I want to I think I'm being called to be a sister, but I don't know what that means. And he said, go talk to the sisters. Go talk to Sister Sarah. Go talk to Beverly Jean. So I got up my nerve to my sister-in-law and said, come to the Bible study with me. So that was kind of my entrance into it. And then I made an appointment with Beverly Jean and I said, I feel like I'm being called, but I think I'd be a good wife and mother. And she said, if you'd be a good wife and mother, you'd be a good sister. Come and see. You're free to go anytime, but come and see. If it's a fit, you'll know. And if it's not, you're free to go. There was another woman in the parish who was interested. She had 3 great aunts in the congregation of Dominican Sisters. So she said, come with me. So we came over to Springfield, and I kid you not, the moment I stepped in to the front doors, I knew I was home. I didn't know why. I didn't know how. I just knew I was home.
Incredible.
Before I had even met anybody else, I was so comfortable walking in that front door. What I learned throughout my time, through those first few visits, is the sisters ate together, prayed together, and played together. And as I realized it later, that's Dominican life, but that was also the Glazik life. I didn't go to parochial school. Like I said, I was a public, but we went to Mass every week. We went to CCD. We studied our catechism at home. We had devotions at home. So I grew up very Catholic, but that community, living with so many, we shared. It was ours, not mine. We ate together, played together, and prayed together. And little did I know that is Dominican charism. So it's of God.
Here I am, Lord. I come to do your will.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Even though we don't know what the will is.
Yeah.
And that was the strange thing too, when I did enter, and I remember saying to Sister Dominica, the prioress general at the time, I don't want to be a nurse and I don't want to be a teacher. What else you got for me?
Denise, when you were speaking, it reminded me of something that Vicki said in passing. Vicki, you talked about we sisters and the 4 pillars. Can you say a little bit more about that? What's your interpretation of what do we mean by the Dominican 4 pillars?
Yeah, well, it's the 4 things that define our ministry of prayer, preaching, community, and what's the other one? Study. Yes.
I'm going.
The one I didn't like.
Yeah. Actually, that's the one I do like, really. Yeah, I know we're all different, but when I took time to learn, and I didn't really learn about them until I was an associate, but in that preparation, I thought, that already defines my life. I'm doing all these things, not to the extent the sisters have, of course, but I don't have a master's in divinity or scripture or anything, but I am a lifelong learner, and those, I have a life of prayer. I want to be united with the Dominican sisters in their prayer. I pray for the life of the world several times in the week. I love community. I'm a single woman, and so to like you, Denise, I wanted to have 5 boys. I wanted to get married and have enough for my own basketball team. But that wasn't in my stars, you know. When your life doesn't turn out the way you had hoped, then you do what you can to make it as rich as you can with everything else that is available to you. And becoming active with the Dominicans through the associate program really fit that bill for me. And that wasn't until, you know, I was probably maybe around 40, 45, so maybe closer to 50 that I became an associate. But I had been in spiritual direction with the sisters and preaching in my work with Teresians International. I have a big speaking role and a writing role with that 2,000 member organization around the world. So I feel like I'm preaching all the time. Mm-hmm. And responding to the needs of the organization in a spiritual way. And it's interesting because Teresians has 5 dimensions. Our extra one is ministry to one another in community and then the world in which we live. That's what the pillars mean to me. Bernice, thanks for asking.
Mm-hmm. I just want to say in regard to when you were talking about study and you don't have a degree in this or that, I think of this ongoing formation that we're involved in. And in part, it responds to something that was going on in my life when I was looking for more. I remember my mom said to me one time, Bernice, you are never satisfied. No matter what, you're always looking for something else. That's part of what also it has planted that desire in me to learn more. And so as a Springfield Dominican and as associates, we have that opportunity to continue to delve deeper into the mystery of who God is and how we are all interconnected. And you mentioned the prayer, Vicki, for the life of the world. That prayer is the undergirding of what we, are about and so on. And I'm pretty sure I hate to say I'm not sure that it's on our website, but I'm sure it must be somewhere on our website. Yes. Okay, it is. I got the word that it is. And that's in part what this podcast is called, Flow for the life of the world, for the life of the world. That's what we're about. Yeah. That's what each of you, whether Carrie, you're speaking about your music ministry, or Denise, your deep desire, not to study necessarily, but still there's an ongoing formation that, as I see it, that it's not necessarily involved in, going to classes 5 days a week and so on. It's there's so many opportunities to learn, to delve deeper.
Yeah. You know what? The pillars for me, community. Again, I grew up youngest of 14, all in the same house, one bathroom, and we made it and we shared. So then one thing that meant more to me, because my family were very supportive and ecstatic when I told them that I was entering. When you going? Well, I got to wait for the letter. So when I joined the Dominican Sisters of Springfield, I was a postulant for just about a year and then became a novice. And you're a novice for 2 years, canonical year, and then the next. But the year of my profession, which would be like someone's getting married, equivalent, a special day. Yeah. My mom had died 30 days before that. Oh. That most special day. And I was just devastated, absolutely devastated. And yet the community was there for me. They were there surrounding me with my family on the day of profession. And at her funeral, the wake and the funeral, the sisters came and attended, just the support of that. So I experienced the community and the prayer, which are a huge part of the charism. Mm-hmm. And Kara, to your point of music ministry, there must have been nearly 50 sisters who were at the funeral mass who were in the choir loft singing at my mother's funeral. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Unbelievable, but glorious. And I have nothing but gratitude for them. It was a gift.
I Sister Denise, reflecting the sense of communities. I have also experienced that and been on the receiving end of that. Since the Springfield Dominicans have been in my life for the majority of the years that I've been on earth, they've seen me through my educational experiences and personal experiences. And as I grew up to be a young woman and now a mom, becoming a mom during the pandemic, of course, we have been very isolated from each other. So that's been hard because one of the things that I really want to do is bring my son to Sacred Heart Convent and introduce him to all of the sisters that mean so much to me. But that day will come. It will come. It's going to happen. But just knowing that the sisters are praying for me and praying for the little one and praying for our family, and the amount of love and prayers that surround anyone that want to be a part of the community is really, really incredible. One of the things that I have loved the most since being a Dominican associate is receiving the prayer request emails and just knowing who else we can pray for and include in our daily thoughts. The community from the Dominican community, I should say, is quite special. Quite special. Yes, joy-filled, but filled with so much love too.
And Kara, this challenging time that we've been living in this pandemic, that there are so many lonely people. And so maybe this podcast can reach out to them and let them know that they don't have to be alone, that
True.
There is community. They can become part of a community if they desire it. That's why community is so important to me too. I can't imagine going through life without this big community of Dominican sisters. And really, it's not just the Springfield Dominicans. We belong to all the Dominicans, don't we? So that, I just find that so cool that I could travel to any country in this world and visit a Dominican monastery or a convent and say, hey, I'm an associate. I think I value that a lot.
Very true.
In fact, I just started the spiritual direction program in race with the Dominican sisters there. So there's an example of that extension, and I feel right at home.
Yes, indeed, Vicki. That reminds me how our Springfield Dominican life touches so many other Dominican congregations throughout the world, really.
Yeah.
I say when I taught school, the school was when I taught, my classroom was my world. And then I was a principal and the school became my world. And then I came here to the Mother House to be a secretary with the leadership team. My world is literally the world. And so, that whole concept of for the life of the world. So yes, indeed, what an opportunity to touch lives with so many different congregations, as well as the Dominican friars. So we happen to have 3 Dominican friars living right here on the property, and one who comes here daily and celebrates Eucharist for us. And I want to go back to one thing, Vicki, you were talking about, and also Kara, about, and the 3 of you actually, about community life. We also have associates who are prayer associates, and that one can become a prayer associate just by contacting Sister Joan Sorge, or just going to our website, or just calling the Mother House here, and it's wonderful, that Dominican pillar of prayer, but it's also community, because like Kara, you were saying, you get the prayer requests, we pray for each other, and it's so personalized when we can see the actual needs that people have.
I would like to just touch on the other pillar that is so important with the Dominican family. People have asked me, what's OP at the end of your name? And for some, when I was in school, it was like, is that operating principle? No, it is Order of Preachers. Order of Preachers. So the whole Dominican family, the men, the women, the sisters, the nuns, we have OP, and we preach by the pulpit of our life. So regardless what ministry it is, any Dominican, even the associates, are preachers. They preach from the pulpit of their life, whatever their ministry is, and their life for the world. And for my experience of that as well, I was on our preaching committee for a number of years, 11 years, I believe. And we wanted to make sure that that was number one goal, that every sister knew that she was a preacher by the profession of her vows as a preacher. And the second way was that some are called to formally preach. And they've studied scripture, and it might be at an evening prayer service. If, like, for my experience, I was out in a parish, and so I preached reconciliation services, wake services, communion services, informal preaching. And it was such a gift. So I experienced it in two ways, because I did formal preaching. I preached for retreats, faculty retreats, parish missions, but also my ministry as a pastoral associate. I was a teacher for a time, and I knew that was not where God was calling me to. I did it and went there every day, but I was pretending. Kara, back to your point of be who you're meant to be and you're set the work on fire. I was ready to, I felt like I was being set on fire in the classroom. And I said, you got to get me out of here. You know, I love the kids, but I didn't feel deep down that's where I was called to be. But in the parish life, my pastoral ministry, I was out in people's homes. As you said, Kara, the sisters were there in your good times, your sad times, the suffering. And so that was also a kind of preaching. I remember in particular, I worked with some hospice folks, and one of the mother-in-laws that I worked with, she was having such a hard time. The family was in denial, the cancer, and certainly cancer affects the whole family. So she invited me out to her house, and I just sat and listened. And I thought, back to my home life, what would my mom do in this situation? Well, chicken soup heals everything, right? So at this woman's house, as she was talking about her daughter-in-law and her son and the family dealing with cancer, I made chicken soup for her family. And so that was just a way that I could minister, I could preach, my gift of cooking, my gift of healing. And so that was preaching by the pulpit of my life.
Beautiful.
What is it that Francis said was spread the gospel, if necessary, use words.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you know, the other thing I just recently figured out also, I'm a pie baker. I have preached in a lot of ways by making pies for our community bazaar. I made 30 one year in a single day. But the other thing, I'm using the acronym PIE.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's time to roll out PIE. And it's an acronym for pray for vocations, invite vocations, and encourage vocations.
PIE.
I am the pie maker.
Yes, I love it.
Very good.
Oh my.
Denise says our vocation director. You are the pie maker.
Yeah.
That's right.
Buy a slice of pie.
So the community can have their slice of pie and preach with pie.
Yeah.
Pray, invite, and encourage.
Very creative.
So, you know, I think our love for the sisters, our love for the congregation. I know when I left my ministry in Bradley, they wanted to keep in touch. We had been in that parish for 94 years. And so people ask, how do we keep in touch with you? Well, our Dominican website. We're on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We have great videos. We have informational, formational videos. So by our website, and hopefully post-pandemic, certainly come back to Sacred Heart Convent and visit the sisters. They will love human interaction again with the outside world. We have Jubilee Farm. There's tons of ways.
Yeah.
And even online, you can go to our website and make there's a virtual retreat. You set it to your own schedule. You can do it in a day, you can do it in 3 days, but it's all there for you. Prayers are there for you. News about the Dominican Sisters and what they're doing. And for Cor Unum, they have first and third Sundays. They pray together. We share an article or something about a book, something about a topic. There's just so many ways of keeping contact. Another thing is so many people, and all of you would have experienced it, of being in touch with those sisters who taught you years ago, whether it was religious ed or music or whatever. Find out where they are, what they're up to. Many would say, oh my gosh, they got to be dead by now. But we live a long, loving life. Make that opportunity of possible reconnection.
So Denise, you mentioned Cor Unum. So what is Cor Unum?
Cor Unum is a house on our east side in Enos Park area. And it's Sister Beth Murphy and Sister Lori Kirchman and Sister Mary Claire Fickner. And they lived together, and it pre-COVID was going to be like a house of hospitality for young women in the area who wanted to live community life, pray together. So the opportunity will still be there. The house is ready hopefully as soon as COVID is over. And you can learn more about that on Facebook or contact any of the sisters, Beth, Lori, or Claire, and they can give you more details about that.
I think for our younger audience, we can only reflect on our own experience, lived experience, but I wish I had a relationship with the Dominican Sisters in my early 20s. And I was very involved in ministry at that time, but I hadn't connected with the sisters yet. But I'm just saying that whole idea of hitch your life to a bigger, I don't know, how did I say that? Hitch your wagon to something bigger than you are. How important that is in as you develop your life and as you continue to discern what is God calling me to? How am I supposed to figure out what I'm supposed to do? Entering into a relationship with someone who can talk you through a lot of your questions can be a real asset for you. It can be a real grounding experience for you. And I just encourage you to consider it. And I know that the sisters at Jubilee Farm have invited some young adults who were questioning and wanting to explore their own spirituality. I think they were called the nuns, the NON, non-religious.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the sisters were willing to talk with them and to process. Well, how is God working in your life? Those are important questions for all of us, but I think particularly for young people today, because it is one crazy world out there.
Yeah. And it's very important to process that in a discerning way. Discernment, one of the things I learned was discernment is between a good and a good. Mm-hmm. So had I married the love of my life, that would have been good. It just would have been a life that was very different. Yeah. Coming to religious life, it's a good. Mm-hmm. And it's for some people. God is still calling men and women to religious life. And so any vocation, Vicki, you are a single lay woman. That's a wonderful vocation, living out your life as a single woman. Mm-hmm. Kara, you're a mom, married with children, a child now. That's a great vocation. It's a witness to the world. And Sister Bernice and I are vowed religious. And that's a valid vocation. And it's a way of living how God called you to live.
And I'll just add to that, Denise. I have this quote here from this Jesuit Father Pedro Arrupe, I think you say his name. And anyway, he says, the essence of the human vocation is to fall in love with God. What you are in love with, what seizes your imagination will affect everything. It will decide what will get you out of bed in the morning, what you do with your evenings, how you spend your weekends, what you read, what you know, what breaks your heart, and what amazes you with joy and gratitude. So fall in love, stay in love, and it will decide everything.
Oh, I love that quote.
I love that. Don't you love that quote?
Awesome. Yes.
Oh, I need a copy of that.
I have one here.
I do too.
But you know, Sister Ida Ford, this is how she says it. Find that which gives life a deep meaning for you, something worth living for, maybe even dying for, something that energizes you, enthuses you, enables you to keep moving ahead.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely
what I define. Choose either, they're both saying the same thing, but I have those quotes here by my computer because it's like that gives me hope.
That's awesome.
Very powerful.
Yeah.
I think, after all that we've talked about, I think that every soul matters. And we are all given a gift that's to be shared with the world. And by connecting with something bigger than we are, we can share that gift. And we can, we can make our lives a living gospel in the world today. And the world is in such need of peace and love and loving actions that every single soul matters. And there's just, it's somehow, there's a gift when you do things within the context of community, the strength that you gain in the doing of these acts of love takes on a whole new dimension. And so I encourage young people today to consider, where is your life going and what do you want to give away to the world? What is your purpose on this life? Consider reaching out to the Dominicans or any other religion or religious order that graces this planet, and see how much you can give away of this one life that you've been given. So thank you, Bernice, Denise, and Kara. Appreciate sharing this time with you.
And thank you, Vicki, for those words. This is Bernice, and I think my final words are going to be those of Sister Ida Ford that says, find that which gives life a deep meaning for you, something worth living for, maybe even dying for, something that energizes you, enthuses you, enables you to keep moving ahead. Or Kara, what about you?
Our time together today has been really special. I've enjoyed sharing my reflections and experiences and hearing all of yours. My closing quote, I guess. I love quotes. I love inspirational sayings and psalms, etc. But mine comes from St. Catherine of Siena. Be who God meant you to be, and you will set the world on fire.
Thank you, Kara, for quoting St. Catherine. And I, too, would just say, as this podcast is for the life of the world, being a Dominican sister, friar, associate, we are scattered throughout the world for the life of the world to preach the truth And especially in this pandemic, I think a huge part of what people are missing is community, and how much perhaps we've taken that for granted. The fact that Dominican life, one of the pillars is community life, something willing to give your life for, someone to come home to, someone to support you to go out, be sent out into the world to preach by the pulpit of your life. So let's set the world on fire with study, ministry, prayer, common life. Send that good energy out there. Okay, and let's talk about pie.
Okay.
You can actively be involved in promoting vocations, no matter who you are, how old you are, where you are, by P, praying for vocations, inviting vocations, that's what the I stands for, inviting nieces, nephews, brothers, sisters who have the capacity to serve. And E is encouraging vocations now that it's a valid life. Talk to a spiritual director, vocation director, see where you are being called to give your life away. So PI, pray, invite, and encourage vocations.
Amen, sister. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Love to be in with you, and hope we can do it again sometime.
Thanks, Denise. Bye,
Thanks
Vicki.
to all. Bye, Vicki. Bye, Bernice.
Be well.
Be well.